Hi and welcome to my channel. Now today's video is about this Pioneer A10 amplifier. It's the A-10-K. If you look at the back, the actual serial number at the back is the A-10-K, but at the front it says Integrated Amplifier A10. So that's what it is. This didn't cost a lot of money. You're going to go on eBay these days and pick this up for 40 or 50 pound. Probably without a remote. Most amplifiers these days don't come with a remote. I'm sure this did have a remote because it's got a little sensor there, but I'm not 100%. It may just be the way they use the same fascia for a few models and inside's a little bit different. So maybe that's something I should have checked out when I took the lid off to see if it had a sensor there, and I didn't check that out. I don't know why. But anyway, we'll have a little look. Talk about look inside. We'll have a little look inside very briefly. I'm not really going to do a lot of talking about the amplifier. I'm not going to go into too much detail really. Just give you an idea what it sounds like, what I thought about it. Try and make it the video as quick as possible really. But anyway, that's inside, quite nicely neat. A great big transformer as you can see inside there. So that's just a good sign. Like a big chunky transformer. Don't like any of these switch mode power supplies or anything like that. I got this. I did get the Rents PM 5005. That's downstairs. It was an OK amplifier. I got it downstairs just to keep the missus happy because it's got the remote control for the TV and that kind of thing. It seems to be doing its job okay down there. I've got it with a big pair of mission speakers, and it's okay. It ain't too bad down there. It ain't too bad, and they're a bit more on the warmer side as well. That amplifier didn't really like a bright sounding pair of speakers, that's for certain. So yeah, I've got this amplifier here. This come out 2012 to 2017. I think looking at it, it's hard to get an actual price, but I think it retailed for about $249 when it come out. Obviously, as it got towards the end of its life, the price drops like anything else. So that Marantz I think was a bit dearer. So I'm going to talk a little bit about between the two as well as we go along. But what I thought I'd do also, I'll put this bit of paper here so you can see them hopefully. This ain't normally there, just otherwise it blends in otherwise. This is a Sansui AU217. This is 30 watts as well. This come out in 77 to 80. So a bit of a difference in period of time. We're talking, what's that, 40 years gap between them? Was it near enough, 35 years, something like in the gap between them. I bought this because to compare, because this is 30 watts as well. Just want to give you a comparison of 30 watts back then to the 30 watts now. I did a few different speakers with this as well, but we're going to, when I start telling you about the power, I'm just going to compare it to my Wolfdale Diamond 3s that are hard to drive. Not that hard to drive, but they're harder because they're only 86 dB compared to some other speakers I've got that are in the 90s or 90 or whatever. So just give you kind of a little bit of an idea with it as well. So anyway, we've looked at the inside, so we're going to look at the front, and it's not bad, you know what I mean? It's quite nicely done. They're all plastic knobs, and these are plastic to a certain degree. These feel a bit more chunkier, but it's still plastic. So these are plastic knobs, and you've got all the push buttons here for your speakers. So if I turn it on, I might as well turn it on. I've got the volume down to 0. We've got some inputs here. We've got SA-CD, Super Audio CD and CD. They're both in the same socket, so that's that. There's no difference between the two. It's just, I think they just labelled it up there for a socket. You can plug either into it kind of thing. But this here, the way these are wired up, I think inside, looking at the diagram, that it's just a chip that picks out, you know, depending where you turn this on what channel, it just basically links up that input to the rest of the amplifier just by doing it logically, like a logic kind of chip. So we got network here. So if you've got a streamer or something like that, you may want to plug that into it. I should imagine you've got your phono, your tuner, auxiliary, and to record. If you put it over there, recorder. That connects up your recorder, like a tape recorder or something like that, I should imagine, cassette recorder. So we've got quite a few inputs in there, if you can actually count them. What's that, 6 inputs? So it's not bad, it's not bad. Got a loudness control, got a direct control, so we can bypass these. If I press the direct, I thought it made a little noise, it didn't, maybe because I ain't got the speakers connected. Yeah, so it bypasses these, so you can't do the bass, treble, or the balance, none of them work, it completely bypasses them. We'll turn that off for a minute. We've got the headphones here, and that's basically it. And like I say, it's not a bad looking amplifier, you know, it's quite a nice looking amplifier really. It's quite smart, it's got a metal case, it's fairly solid, you know what I mean, fairly solid inside, you know, it's got a nice chassis, fairly solid. And it's actually a little bit bigger than this Sansui here. It's actually got a little bit more depth to it, and a little bit more height to it, the casing, even with the legs, but it's got a little bit more height. So that's that. Like I say, not going to pay a fortune for it now. Like I say, this is about 50 quid, something like that. If you went on eBay and got this particular amplifier here, probably cost you about 120 to 140 pounds, something like that. I'm guessing they usually go for that kind of thing. So there's a bit of a difference in price. And like I say, I got this and that Marantz to kind of give me an idea what you're going to get for a budget amplifier coming forward. Maybe not these days, not today, not 2024, but bringing the years forward. I'm into the 2000s, I'm into 2010s kind of thing. I'm in that era. So I'm not a million miles away. It's giving me more of an idea of what you're getting for a budget amplifier. So maybe this ain't the budget, this weren't the bottom of the range, this was second from the bottom of the range, but I've got some other bottom of the range amplifiers from Sansui, the A-101, the 317 was near enough bottom of the range. I've got a little 200 tuner, I've got that little quad thing I bought. All low wattages, and so let's just talk about that first of all. If you compare the watts to this is the difference on this particular amplifier. If I want to get the same kind of volume level, we're going to go by volume level here. I would have to have this amplifier, say I had this on number 2, which is just there, number 2 here. I'd quickly have this amplifier right up here somewhere to get the same kind of volume level. So the wattage difference is quite different. It's quite a difference here. It's a noticeable difference where you're turning that dial, how far you've got to turn that dial to get the same kind of volume. And even so, this is 30 watts. Now my little 8 watt quad I bought, I can't remember, the Q500 or whatever, that's only 8 watts. And that is 0 to 10, but it's a slider control. I put that on number 2, and to get this to go to the same loudness, we're just talking about loudness here, this would be up here again, this would be a number 4, somewhere around there. To get the, so it's probably these sound like twice as powerful. This is what I'm trying to get at. They do sound twice as powerful to what this is. It's just the way it sounds, you know what I mean? You're getting that oomph, that volume more from these older ones than they are these new ones. So it's quite interesting that to get that kind of perspective for me anyway. I'm going to try and keep this as short as possible. You don't even know how it sounds yet, but I just want to give you an idea of what today you're probably going to get compared to back then. But don't forget, this is bottom of the range. This is like getting you on that first step of the ladder, and I think this is where this fits. This and that Marantz gets you on the first step of the ladder. There's many good reviews on this, many millions. You can look online, Amazon and places like, everyone gives this a really good write-up. I want to be a bit critical here, but don't forget, it ain't going to cost you a lot. It's not going to cost you a lot. I'm going to be a bit critical. It's okay. It's okay amplifier, you know what I mean? It's not a bad amplifier for what it is, and for what you're going to pay for it, 40 or 50 quid, that's okay. It ain't too bad, like, you know what I mean? You're getting something reasonable there. You're going to get a reasonable sound out of it. You may want to tiddle around with the bass a little bit. I thought it was a bit bass shy, this amplifier, though some people seem to think it was okay, but the speakers I use, I just thought this is a bit bass shy, and I would really like to get the kind of bass that I wanted. I would turn this up. Probably like if it went from 0 to 5, I'll be putting this on 2 or 3 to get that kind of oomph, to get a bit more bass in it. The treble are okay, the top end's okay. I think they've got it kind of back right here with the top end, where the Marantz was just a little bit too high maybe, and in that mid-range just kind of had that bump in it. They seem to have got this right at the top end. You wouldn't want to get anything too bright speaker-wise. You want a neutral sounding kind of set of speakers for this. You wouldn't want them too bright, because then it would kind of, you would have to turn this down a bit. But I think they've pitched this top end, this treble, the mid-range and treble, just about right on this amplifier, so that's pretty good. And the imaging was pretty good as well, this amplifier. The image across was quite nice, it was quite tight. Same with that Marantz, that was quite impressive as well for what, you know, for what it is. It was quite nice, and it positioned everything nicely. So all in all, it weren't a bad sounding amplifier. It weren't a bad sounding amplifier, and it ain't a bad amplifier for when you're starting and you're going to put your foot on that first run of the ladder, because I think you'd have to move these controls a little bit to just get it right as you would want it. Like I say, get more bass into it and that. So all in all, it weren't. And going for the phono stage, just quickly, I read a few write-ups that people weren't too impressed with the phono stage. It was noisy and stuff, and I didn't have any noise or any problems with this. And it was okay, it was nothing fantastic, but it done the job. It weren't too bad, Don't forget, I'm being a bit critical here, and for what you're going to pay for it, you know, if I had a choice out of this and that Marantz, if they were the same price, I'd probably go for the Marantz maybe. Maybe, just maybe. There's not a lot in it really, but as the big price difference here, you're going to get this for 40 or 50 pound. That Marantz is going to cost you 120, something like that, a bit more. I think I'll go for this. There's not a lot between them. There's hardly anything in it really, and it really is a toss-up, depending what tracks you play, which one I'd kind of go for. And you know, it really is. I just said that Marantz, but on second thoughts, I may even just go for this. There's nothing between them. It really isn't, I don't think. And probably that's what it is. They're probably set out like that, you know, on that budget first run kind of bit of hi-fi. They're probably all going to sound very similar or the same. They're just going to have slightly different traits to the sound. Like I say, that Marantz had that little bit of a kick, which I didn't like. Towards the mid-range kind of thing, towards the top end, and this is quite a sweet sound amplifier. It's got a bit of sweetness to it. So yeah, you know, thinking about it again in my head, I probably may just go for this if there was the same price. But as they're not, this is a cheaper amplifier to buy. I'd recommend you get this over the Marantz. You know what I mean? If you're thinking of saving up and getting on that first run of the hi-fi ladder and your money's tight, you know what I mean? You go get this. You haven't got the remote control, but I'd get this over the Marantz. I think, you know, you're going to pay like 2 or 3 times as much for that Marantz, and you're better off getting this, I think, definitely. But they're all them two on the first run, like I say, there's not a lot to choose between the two of them. They just kind of got slight differences here and there. But when you turn this on, this is where it all changes. You know what I mean? This is where if you're going to listen carefully. If you're going to be one of these people just going to put a record on, or you're going to put a CD on or something, and just sit back. You're not going to have a clinical ear, and like I say, don't mind twiddling about these controls a little bit. You're going to get a reasonable sound, and you're going to be quite happy with it. They're not that punchy. It's not bad. The wattage ain't bad. You're going to have to whiz the control around a bit to get a reasonable kick out of it, kind of thing, and get some rhythm going, kind of thing. But how can I explain it? It's just a total difference here. This is okay, but we're going to bring this into it now. And what you're going to notice about here straight away, one instant thing you're going to notice is the space around everything, the space around the instruments, the space, the actual overall space. This has got a little bit of a three-dimensional to it, not much, but a little bit of a three-dimensional. Everyone seems to be like that soundstage, even though across the speakers, they seem to be bunched up near each other, like, not a lot of room between each person, kind of thing. Where this gives them the space, everyone's got their own little space, they're in their own little pocket doing their own stuff, they're either singing, they're either playing an instrument or whatever they're doing in that, in the band or whatever you're listening to. All got their space. You've got a big space in the room as well, it just opens it right up. But it's also the definition of the music. The next thing you're going to realise is the definition, the resolution of that music you're listening to is upped quite a bit. You know what I mean? This here, if you're going to kind of compare the two, like I say, I've got my critical head on here. I'm going to upset a few people, but on this amplifier in the Marantz, you're probably listening to a band that's bought some cheap instruments. They've gone out and bought the cheapest set of drums, the cheapest trumpet, the cheapest stuff, and it's noticeable. Like it is noticeable. Where when you're listening to this, the same band's going to bought all the top-notch stuff. You know what I mean? It's just giving. I'm not saying this is the best amp in the world. Don't get me wrong. I'm just doing a comparison between these two. Obviously, when you compare this to Sansui or other makes or some new makes, that Reset, not Reset, that Riga Elicit was I listened to, or whatever amplifier. Obviously, there's going to be another step there. You're moving up that ladder. But when you compare these two, there is a total difference. It's just going to hit you. You're going to notice it straight away. And if you was going to buy this for £40 or £50, and you've heard that difference, because don't forget, if you just gone and bought this first thing, like most people have, they probably haven't heard the difference. They haven't got a comparison to do it with. But if you went in an hi-fi shop and the bloke said this is 50 quid and you had 50 quid in your pocket, and the bloke said this is £120, I think you'll walk out the door and say, I'll come back when I've got £120, thank you. Because that's what it is, you know what I mean? It's not a vast amount of difference in the price. When you think about it, £70 these days ain't a lot, but this is a budget channel, and my listeners, I know they're all budget people, don't get me wrong, I know what it's like, to not be able to afford certain stuff. I really do. So you may think, well, this is going to do me, Mick, and it will. You know what I mean? If you haven't got that comparison, you're still going to get some pleasure out of this. Like I say, you're going to fiddle about these controls a little bit, but you're going to get a reasonable sound. You're going to get a nice-ish sound out of it. But it's just when you compare it, it's the comparison that's going to go, oh, if I could save up that bit more, I'd go for this. Now, you've got a few problems here, obviously. This is more likely not to go wrong, maybe, but with these here, this selector thing here, it's all like electronic and gates and chips and all that. These do go wrong quite a bit. They're so small and delicate and all that kind of stuff. Well, these have got proper old switches. I know they can get dirty contacts. You can clean them with some spray, hopefully. Something that most of the time they do clean up. Now and again, you may get a switch that's not going to comply, but most of the time they kind of okay. You're obviously going to get problems, over the years, but you're still on this. So you're taking a bit of a gamble as well. So you've got to weigh that into your equation, I think. Are you want to take this gamble, something that's a bit more newer, and you think it's got a bit more of a chance of lasting than something that's really old. But then when you look at it, when you think about something, you bought a fridge, you've had your fridge years, and you bought that in the 70s or 80s, and it's lasted you 30 or 40 years, and suddenly you go and buy one these days, like a boiler really. We had a boiler in this house, it's been going yonks, and a friend of mine's got one that was even older, and you go and buy a boiler these days and you see the reviews and people said, oh, it lasted 7 years, it lasted 10 years. They don't make them like they used to, so just bear that into the thing. I can't sway you one way or the other, just think, you've got to kind of weigh it up yourself. But out of the two, if I had the extra money, if you've got the extra money, get this all day long. Get this all day long. Any Sansui from that era, that I've got a little tune that cost me £40. That little quad thing cost me £40 or £50. I think they walk over this. They really do when you do the comparison. They're totally different. You know what I mean? You're just getting that clarity. You're getting the resolution. You're getting the space around the instruments. You just feel the bass, this is quite bassy. This has got a big oomph to the bass, a big oomph to the bass. It's going to get you in the rhythm. It's going to get you amongst it. And a record I've been playing quite a bit, like just a comparison, and it does show up on here. It's all night long. It's maybe not a record you're going to play to test your hi-fi all night long, Lionel Richie, because it's probably going to sound pretty good on any hi-fi because it's got a lot going on, bing, 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 all over the place kind of thing. And it's, you know, it's quite a powerful kind of, it's quite, you know, involving kind of record. It's quite musical. It's a musical kind of record. But on this amplifier here, like I say, this is where you notice that the band is playing with instruments that didn't cost them a lot of money, you know what I mean, cheap kind of instruments, where here they're playing with some proper instruments. It kind of just shows up there quite a bit. So that's it, you know, it's all right if you're a beginner and you want to get this, you want to get yourself a cheap turntable and a cheap pair of speakers, and if you did get a cheap pair of speakers, you're probably going to get a little bit more out of this, believe it or not, because it's probably not going to show up them instruments being so cheap. It's a bit like, I don't know, if you could kind of imagine playing an old retro game on a old CR TV, the graphics look pretty good, but when you put them on HD TV, even it's the same thing, because it's HD, it just shows up how bad them graphics are, if you get what I mean. So then, you know, if you've got a cheaper set of speakers, you know, you're going to get this and a cheap set, etc., it's probably going to sound okay, you know what I mean, it's going to be pretty good. My speakers, even though it's in Wolfdale, they're going to be maybe a bit more revealing than some speakers you're going to go and buy, if you know what I mean. So you're probably going to get away with it, let's put it that way. It's going to kind of cover it up a little bit. So yeah, all in all, not a bad little amplifier for the money. If you pay £40–50, you're probably going to be okay if you want to get something a bit more modern. But I'd recommend that maybe you save up and get something a bit older, particularly in this case. And I think that going by these two, I'm going to get another one or two as well, just to make me mind up. But at the moment, I'm thinking that these basic, these bottom of the range amplifiers are going to be pretty much of a level kind of playing field. They're all going to be pretty, very, very similar. And to get something decent, you're going to have to go up quite a bit. So we're spending £200–250 for an amplifier. I think to get something reasonable, you're going to be in the £700 brackets, £500 to £700 probably, to get something, you know, reasonable. That's going to give you that clarity, that resolution. You know, give you more enjoyment out of the music. You know, being a critical ear, putting a critical ear to it, kind of thing, rather than just sitting back and relaxing. So hopefully you've understood what I'm trying to say there. I think I've kind of put it across as I want to kind of get it across. It's hard to explain things sometimes, but hopefully you kind of got the gist of the difference between this and this. But I won't put you off of this, like I say, because I know obviously some people got, you know, they've got tight budgets, of course, you know what I mean, and this is good. You're getting a big old unit here for £50, £40–50. You're getting quite a nice unit, you know, it's quite sturdily made, etc. So that's it. Won't waffle anymore. I'll say thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon.